Welcome to Broad Strokes, Fortune's weekly show where we talk about the news that matters to women.
And on this week's show, I'm happy to say our weekly Trump segment is about Ivanka Trump instead of Donald.
It's kind of refreshing, right? Ivanka Trump was in the news this week because her brand, the Ivanka Trump collection, is being boycotted, as well as the stores that sell it. This boycott is mostly about her father and the allegations around him with sexual harassment, sexual assault, and the fact that Ivanka has largely stood by him.
There's no hard evidence saying that this boycott is effective or that everything that's going on in the presidential race is affecting her at all. You had two kind of competing polls this week, one from Morning Consult, which basically said that most women wouldn't buy her clothes, that Democratic, 3 out of 4 women kind of would never consider buying her clothes. Then on the other hand, you had Brand Keys, which is another agency, basically saying, millennial women don't actually care about all these things.
It's clear that she's concerned about it. She spoke at our MPW summit last week. She wants to be out there sort of fighting for it and protecting her brand.
Seeing her at the summit, I actually had a lot of respect for her. I thought she did a really great job kind of keeping a safe distance from her father, but kind of playing the good daughter card. She doesn't choose her family. It's not her fault that Donald's her dad. She can still be a strong woman and a feminist while still being Donald Trump's daughter.
I have to say I disagree with you on that point. I feel like, Ivanka Trump is a strong woman and she's her own woman. And if she wanted to, she could come out and take a really aggressive stance against her dad's actions and the things that he stands for.
This week in our office, we were talking a lot about this new study that came out that basically said that when a female CEO's company is in trouble, she gets blamed 80% of the time. But then on the other hand, if it's a male CEO at the helm, he only gets blamed for a crisis 30% of the time.
Yeah, this really made me think about this story that our colleague Jen Reingold did. She was looking at the fact that women who rise to the top of corporate America often disappear pretty early in their careers, whereas you see men in job after job after job. And she went back and looked at Fortune 500 CEOs starting in 2004 and found that no female CEO who has been pushed out of her company ever got another CEO job. Meanwhile, 5 male CEOs basically failed upwards. They got fired and then landed another top job.
Female CEOs in general have only repeated as CEOs twice, right? You had Meg Whitman from eBay to HP, and then you had Susan Cameron, who was the chief of Reynolds American, twice, and she actually just retired last week.
So Gretchen Carlson was back in the news this week. She's on the cover of Time, and this is her first big interview since she settled with Roger Ailes and with Fox News. So the story looked at what she's going to be doing next, and one thing that they talked a lot about is the fact that she will be testifying before Congress about forced arbitration, which is essentially when you take a job with a company and you are required to sign a document that says, look, if we have a dispute, I will not take you to court. We will go into arbitration and deal with it privately.
Yeah, one of the really kind of interesting things from this story is the fact that about a quarter of working Americans who aren't in unions have arbitration clauses in their contracts.
That is a lot.
Which is so many. It kind of goes to show that only somebody like Gretchen Carlson, somebody high profile with a lot of clout in the media, with a lot of capital resources, can do something like this, because for the regular person, knowing to sue Roger Ailes versus Fox News would have escaped us, and we probably would have been, bullied into the arbitration room.
I was interested to read this piece in the New York Times a few months back by Maureen Sherry. She was a banker at Bear Stearns before the financial crash, and she made a couple of interesting points. So one is the fact that half of the cost of arbitration is borne by the employee, and that can be a lot, especially when you're up against the resources of a massive bank.
Yeah.
And second of all, the arbitrators, from what she discovered, are generally pretty favorable towards the companies. So in 2/3 of the cases that she looked at, the suits were settled in favor of the banks. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have this week on Broad Strokes. Come back next Friday for another episode on Fortune.com.